Hey guys, this is Mitch with Finepoint CGI, and today we're going to talk about how to integrate Google Play game services in your Android Godot game. Now, this is going to be Godot 3.5 and Godot 4.1. So if you have either one of these, this tutorial should work for you. So we're going to go through the process of setting up our project, setting up our plugin. We're going to talk a little bit about the Git project and everything, so that way you guys kind of have a more background of what this plugin's all about. We're going to set up signing in. We're going to set up achievements and getting achievements to unlock. We're going to set up leaderboard and leaderboard scores. And I'm going to talk to you guys about how to save your game. That's one of the big hot topics that people ask me, is how do you save your game? So we're going to cover that. Now, this tutorial does work for Godot 4, and it should work for Godot 3.5, though you may need to change how we connect our signals because we're using Godot 4. But if you're using 3.5, this tutorial should work for you as well. So that's what I have in store for you guys today. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing we got to talk about is the plugin. So this is PGSGP, or the Play Game Service plugin for Godot, I believe, or something like that. And basically, if you remember, I did a tutorial on this, I want to say almost 2 years ago at this point, and a lot has changed in Godot. So I went through and updated the entire plugin and got it moved over to the latest version of Godot. So this should work with 4.1 and 3.5, so it should work with all of those different versions all the way down. So hopefully this should be a good release for us to carry forward. Now, if One Seed Fruit takes my pull request, they can actually pull all of that in and use it. Of course, I have no problems with that. Now, first things first, we have to download our release. So over here on the right, I actually have the release right here. So we'll click on that and you'll see that we have a GDAP and a release AAR file. So once we're ready and we have our project set up, we can download this, drop it into our plugins folder, and we should be good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my Godot project here and I'll resize it for you guys. This is a brand new project. If you have a project already built, just go ahead and use your project. That's going to be totally fine. So first things first, to be able to use a plugin inside of Godot, we have to go to project, install Android build template, and it's going to say, hey, are you sure you want to do that? Yes, I'm sure. So it's going to uncompress our Android build sources. Now, if we right click, open in file manager, you will see that we have an Android folder right here. We'll double click on that. You'll see we have a build and a plugins folder. Now we'll get intimate with how this all works later, but all we have to do is go into our plugins and drop our release inside of this plugin folder. So I'm going to go back to my release. I'm going to click on the GDAP file. You'll see it's going to drop me into my downloads. I will go ahead and save it. Same thing with my AAR. I will save it. And then I'm going to click here and I'm going to open up my downloads folder. So I'm going to grab these two guys. I'm going to copy it. I'll minimize this and I will go over to my plugins folder here. I'm going to paste it in here and you'll see that now I have two of these guys. So the question that I get a lot is, what are these two files? Like, what is the purpose of them? So an AAR is a compiled library for Android. It's an Android archive resource. And basically what that means is it's a bunch of code that we can use inside of Godot for our project. And a GDAP file basically tells Godot what this does. So if we open this up, you can see that it has a name, it has a binary type, it has a binary, and then it has some dependencies. We don't need to go through any specifics, but basically the name is the name. The binary is local. That means that's something that it's going to have right there locally for it to use. The binary is the actual name of the binary. You can see it's Godot Play Game Services release, and the dependencies are just what the plugin needs to run. And that's basically what this means. So once we have this in here, we can go ahead and open up our tutorial project here, and you'll see that we have a plugins and an Android folder right here. Now, you might be wondering, okay, that's cool, but how do I get it to work? Well, if you go to project export, we click add Android, you'll see first things first, it's going to get mad at us for a few things. We'll fix that in a second, but you'll see right here, it says plugins, Godot Play Game Services. So we'll just check that to on. And then it'll say, hey, use Gradle build must be enabled to use the plugin. So we will click on use Gradle build. And once we have that, all we have to do is handle this next section here. Invalid package name. The project does not meet the requirements for the package name format. Please specify the package name. So if we scroll down here, you can see we have a unique name. Let's specify it to org.fp.gpgss tutorial, like that. And I'm going to grab this name and I'm going to paste it as my game name. And then you'll see target platform requires EC2 ASTC texture compression. So enable EC2 ASTC in project settings. So let's go do that real quick. So project settings. We'll come in here, we'll type compression, go to textures, import ETC2 ATC or ASTC. Click on that. We'll click save and restart, and Godot is going to restart for us real quick. And there we go. And now if we go to project export, we are all set up for our export. So cool. Once we have that, now next, for us to be able to use this plugin, we have to set up Google Play Games services. So I'm going to click on my release Android 1, and I'm going to navigate over to playgame.com/console. Okay. So this is your Google Play console. Google Play console is where you do everything with your project pretty much. So what we have to do is we have to create an app. And if you already have an app, awesome. You can skip all of this. Okay. So just skip to the next marker and you can basically get started with configuring your actual Google Play project. So we'll click create an app. We're going to name it PSGPP. I think that's what I called it. Let me see. Oh, GPGSS tutorial, like that. I'm going to make it into a game, and then I'm going to make it free. I'm going to confirm that we are okay with our developer program policies, and I'm okay with the US export laws. I'm going to click create app, and it's going to create a brand new app for me. And once we have this, all we have to do is scroll down here on the left and go to Play Game Services. Now, if you want to know how all of this works, all you have to do is check out my exporting out to Android tutorial, where I run you through how all this works and what it's about and how it is and all the things. But in this specific case, I am just going to talk about the Play Game Services. So we'll come down to Play Game Services. We're going to click on configuration. Okay, and if you don't have it open, just click on this little arrow and then click on setup and management and then configuration. It'll sit here and say, hey, do you already use Google API? No, because we are brand new. So we're going to create a brand new one. And then game name is going to be your game name. In my case, GPGSS tutorial. We will click create and it is going to submit it. Now you'll see it has this really handy check mark thing here. So first we have to create an OAuth consent screen. This is important. And let me zoom in a tiny bit for you guys so you get a little bit more space there, just in case you're viewing it on mobile. Creating an OAuth consent screen is important. So basically what that does is when you want to use your Google account, it says, hey, this app is trying to access your thing. Oh, here's their developer email. Here's their support email, things like that. So you want to make sure that you create this. So we'll click on create and you'll see it says, hey, go to this page. So we'll click on that and you'll see that it says, choose how you want to configure and register your app, including your target users. You can only associate one app in your project. So we're going to make this an external app because it is an external app. We want other people to use it, not just people within our organization. So we'll click create. App name, I'm just going to name it PSGPP tutorial. Support email is going to be your own email. So I will pick my email. I will scroll down. And it'll say, hey, you need to have an app logo. I don't believe you actually need that. Same thing with most of this. You don't really need that, but you do need a developer contact email. So we'll say fine.cgi@gmail.com, and we're going to hit save and continue. Now you'll see that it took it. It said, yep, all right, I'm happy with that. Now you should upload all of the stuff. You should fill all that out properly, but that's for you guys to pull the proper icons and things like that. So we'll click on add or remove scopes. And here you have a bunch of different scopes. It's up to you on what you want to have open, but just remember that if you check userinfo.email, it's going to pop up and say, hey, I want access to your email. If you say Google Play Game Services, that means that you're going to ask for information about their Google Play Game Services. So that's just something to keep in mind. So just check the ones that you feel like you need and then go ahead and click update. And there you go. You'll see that it says, here's what I want to pull from the user. Basically, this is the information that you have access to. So just be cautious, because if you don't need their email, then don't pull their email. There's no reason for you to have it. Same thing with their OpenID. If for some reason you don't need to have that information, then don't pull it. The rest of this is basically stuff that we don't really need to worry about, but it's very specific to our app. So it's up to you guys if you need those. We're going to hit save and continue. And for test users, I'm going to add a test user, and I will add my own personal Gmail account. So I'm going to blur this out. We'll click add, and it will show it right here. Like I said, I'll probably be blurring this out anyway. So we'll hit save and continue. You'll see that's going to give us a summary of information. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and I'm going to click back to dashboard. Once we're done, you can see we have all of our stuff. We'll click publish app, and we will push that to production. And once we have this, we can go back to our configuration. We can hit confirm configuration, and then we can move on to creating our credentials. And you will see that if we create credentials, you will see that we have a credential screen. You can see we have no credentials made. So let's create one. So we'll click add credential. And we'll do Android because we're going to be using an Android app. We're going to name it GPGSS tutorial. Don't worry about anti-piracy. That is useful to have on, but in this case, let's not. And for authorization, saying, hey, we need an OAuth client. You'll see we have no OAuth clients available. So let's create one. So we'll come to create OAuth client, and we'll hit go to create OAuth client in Google Console. Authentication type, we're going to choose Android. We're going to name it Android Client 1. Package name has to be the same package name as our project. So I'll go to export, and I will grab this information here, and I'll bring this up and paste. And there we go. Now the Sha1 Fingerprint, that's where things get interesting. So it depends on what you're using for your export. So I always suggest when you're creating an OAuth client that you create two of them, one for your release candidate and one for your debug candidate. Now, in my case, if I head out to C users, FindPoint CGI, I already have a debug Keystore made right here. And I actually have one that I made for a previous tutorial. So what we can do is we can open up a command prompt here by typing CMD right up here. And I can actually come in here and grab this information right here. I'll copy that, open up our command prompt, paste it, and then I'll just come over here and type debug.keystore. We're going to enter our Keystore password, and it depends on what you had your stuff set up to, but by default, it's Android. So I'll put that in, and there will be your Sha1. So I know what you're thinking. Okay, hold on a minute, Mitch. I don't have a debug Keystore. So to create a Keystore, all we have to do is type keytool-gen key space -v Keystore. We get to name it. So in my case, I'm just going to call it debug.keystore, I don't know, 3, because in my case, it's actually the third one I've done for this tutorial. We'll type -alias, and then we get to choose an alias name. So Android debug developer space -key elg rsa- elg Sha1 with RSA -key size 2048 -validity 10,000. We can put it a password, so we'll say Android, and then it'll ask us for some information. I'm not worried about it because this is a debug Keystore, and I'm going to hit yes. And you'll see that that's how you generate a debug Keystore. To do a release Keystore, you do the exact same thing. The only difference is that you want to make sure that your alias name, so you want to make sure that this alias here is something useful, like your company name or something like that, and that your password is not something like Android. It's actually a good password. You want to make sure that you fill out this information, you know, your first and last name, the organization unit, stuff like that. That's all important for you to have correct. But in this specific case, it's not super useful. Now, I've already generated a debug Keystore, so I'm just going to use this Sha1 fingerprint. So you can see that to get your Sha1 fingerprint, all you need to do is say keytool-keystore, debug Keystore -list-v, and then enter the password. So I'll type Android, and you can see this is my Sha that I'm using. So we'll copy that, come in here, we'll paste it, and there we go. We'll hit create, and it'll create that OAuth client. Now, if you have a release Keystore, do this again, create another one and do an Android client too, or release or something like that. So that way, when it gets released to production, it's not going to be broken on production. So you just have to keep that in mind. Now, once we have that, we can go back to our Google Play console, hit cancel, refresh, select, and select our OAuth client. Hit save changes, go back to configuration, and we should be good to go to publish. So if we click publish, you'll see that it says, hold on a minute. Your credentials are good, right? Everything is set up. This part's all good to go, but your properties are not. So we need to actually set that up. So we'll come in here, we'll click on this little arrow over here, and this is our game details. So we need to set this up. So I'll say, this is a test tutorial for GPGSS. Game category, we have to pick a category. I'm going to make it an adventure game because I'm feeling adventurous. Next generation IDs, I'm not worried about it. Saved games, I'll turn on, even though sometimes you don't need it. It depends on if you want to save games to the cloud or not. Game icon, we have to pick a game icon, and it has to be 512 by 512. Now, I've already built one, and I worked a lot on it, so there we go. So this is my stunning work of art here, so don't steal my icon. And we have to do the same thing for a feature graphic. I already pre-built one here, and it has to be 1024 by 500, so keep that in mind. Now, if you scroll down, it's going to say, hey, do you need Firebase? We don't. That's a whole nother tutorial that I'm going to have to do. And it says that Google Play Game Services have been enabled. So we'll hit save, and it'll say your changes have been saved. We'll hit back. And we will review and publish, and we will click publish, and we will hit publish. Now, this may take a few hours. It may not. It may be instant. It just kind of depends on how Google Play is feeling. So hopefully it'll only take a few minutes. We'll see. And while we're waiting for it to do it, let's set up the rest of our project. So if we head over to our project, let's add in the ability to actually log in. So let's click on user interface. Let's right click, add in a child node. Let's add in a button, and let's make the button about this big. That should be big enough for my fingers on this project. We'll type sign in, and then we're going to right click our control node, attach a script, and let's call it Google Play Games Services Controller, like that. So we're going to need to do a few things. So when you build a plugin in your project, you need to basically hold a reference to it in memory. So I'm going to say var GPGS. And then up here in my ready, I'm going to actually set it. So to set it, we need to pull back that singleton. When Godot loads plugins, they actually load it in as a singleton. But first, we don't want to load a singleton that doesn't exist. So we got to check for that. So we'll type if engine dot has singleton quote Godot play games services, then GPGS is equal to engine dot get singleton quote, and I will pull this guy like this. So you might be asking, okay, hold on a minute, Mitch. What does this mean? How did I get this name? So there are two ways I got this name. First, I coded the plugin so I know the name, but if you look at the Google Play Game Services, the name is right here, Google Play Game Services, if you look at that GDAP file. Or if you don't want to look there, you can hit export and then just hover over the Godot Play Game Services. It says right there in the plugin properties, Godot Play Game Services. So that's how I know that this plugin exists. Once I have that, I can initialize it. So I could say gpgs dot init true, comma, false, comma, false, comma, false, quote, and there we go. Now, this initialization will pull back just the player's basic ID. If you want their email, you can add in true right here. That will add in their email. If you add a true to this guy, this will get email and profile data. And then I also have a gpgs.init with saved games like that. true, comma, and then you pick a name. So say like game name, let's say, comma, false, comma, quote, right? So it does the exact same initialization. So gets email and gets profile data, email, profile data. And then this is an OAuth token. Don't worry about the OAuth token for now, but this is how you can initialize this plugin. Now, in my case, I'm going to do a very basic initialization at first, and then we can talk about how we want to handle it later. So I'm going to mute these three, and we'll just do a basic init. Once we have this guy initted, we need to actually do our signals. There are actually a bunch of signals that we have at our disposal. There's a boatload of them. And I don't really want to bore you guys with setting them up, so I may copy and paste them all. It just kind of depends, but I'll show you how to set up one or two of them at least at first. So gpgs.connect quote underscore on underscore sign in underscore sign underscore in underscore success, comma, and I'm just going to grab this guy, copy it, paste it, and then I'm going to create a function down here to handle that. So on sign in success, we'll say print success. Now the question you might be asking is, what does on sign in success take? Well, unfortunately, it's a lot harder to know what it takes without looking at the documentation. But I know just because of experience that it's going to be a JSON file, so I'll just call it user information like that. And then we can just print success plus user information like that. I'm going to hit Control S to save it, and that should work. Now we also have on sign in failed as well. So I'll just basically do the same thing like that. And when sign in fails, we get an error code like that. And there we go. Now it's going to get mad at us because this needs to be str. We need to wrap this as a string so that way it actually works properly. And there we go. So now we have signing in and basically implemented. And now all we have to do is basically hook up signing in. So I'm going to click on my button. I'm going to go to my node, button down, and I'm going to put on sign in, button down. And I'm just going to say if GPGS, then GPGS dot sign in like that. Now, what this does is it actually goes out and signs us in. The reason why I'm checking if GPGS is because if we run our game like this button is not going to work and it's going to throw a bunch of errors. And the reason why this button doesn't work is because this singleton or this plugin doesn't load unless you actually build out to an Android device. That's one of the biggest limitations of this system, is that you have to build out to Android every time you want to test this code, which is always kind of a pain. Now, if you have ADB set up and you've installed exporting to your Android system, that can make things a lot simpler. And I'll show you how. So if I plug in my phone here, you'll see that this right up here has popped up. I can click on it and click Google Pixel 5, and it'll automatically export out to my Google Pixel 5. Now, if you don't see this, then you might need to turn on developer mode on your phone, or you might need to turn on Android debugging on your phone as well. So that's something to keep in mind. I believe there's the Android USB debugging mode, and I believe you'll need to turn that on. Now, once you have this, you might think, okay, I'm done, right? I'm good. I can go ahead and start doing my stuff. Well, unfortunately, no. We still have a little bit of setup to get done. We're going to have to do some changes to how we actually build our project for us to properly include the right stuff. So I'm going to go into my Android. I'm going to right click, open in File Manager, and I'm going to open this guy up. I'm going to click on Build, and I'm going to open up my Android manifest. So I'm going to open this up with my Visual Studio Code. And you'll see nice Visual Studio Code instance here that we can actually edit our stuff. Now, this is where things are important. So this tells your game everything about your game. So things like the app icon, allow backups, is it a game? Does it have fragile user data, right? Things like that. So you get a lot of flexibility here. And you can see like our screen orientation, what orientations we're allowing, stuff like that. Now, what we need to do is we need to come in here inside of our application bracket. So you can see we have a bracket that's open right here, and then it closes right down here. So it needs to be inside of this tag right here. So I'm going to come down here by line 52, and I'm going to add some things. Now, what I'm going to add is relatively simple, but it can be kind of painful. So if you guys don't want to type this in, just copy and paste it, and that's totally fine. So it's going to be metadata space Android : name is equal to quote com.google.android.gms.games.app_id, enter, tab, Android : value is equal to quote @string /app ID. And we'll make an underscore on that app ID. And then we'll use a closing tag like that. I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy it like that. And I'm going to change this Google Android GMS. And instead of games, I'm going to change this to .version. And I'm going to change this to @integer. And I'm going to change this to Google_play_services_version. Now, what does this mean? So this basically tells Android where to go to get information about your project. So things like your Google Play Games version needs to be specified so that it knows which Google Play service to interact with, because there are different APIs with how it interacts with things. So you need to actually tell it which one it needs to interact with. And that's what the GMS version is all about. So that's basically what it's for. So this here talks about an app ID, and we reference string _app ID. So we need to actually create that. So let's Control S our Android manifest, and let's go ahead and open up our build folder. Let's go to RES, let's go to values, and let's go ahead and create a new XML file. So we'll hit file, new text document, and we'll call it strings.xml. We'll hit yes, and then we'll open this up inside of Visual Studio Code. Now you can see here, I am calling string, right, /app ID. That means that we need to declare app ID inside of here. So to do that, we need to create an XML markdown document. So we'll say $XML version is equal to quote 1.0 space encoding is equal to UTF-8. Now, you don't have to do all of this, by the way. I already have it all linked in the description below. You could just go down there and copy and paste this. But I'm going to explain how this works so you guys can do this yourself, and you guys can actually do your own compiler stuff, and you don't have to actually just copy and paste what other people have figured out. So we'll type resource sys, and I'm going to copy, paste, and I will close that bracket as well, like so. Tab string name is equal to quote app_ID, like that. And I will close that. Now inside of here is where we put our app ID. Now your app ID is how Google knows which app is trying to interact with their servers. Without the app ID, Google doesn't know who you are. So how does it know if it's you or if it's Roblox or if it's some other game that exists? So that's what this is for. So the question becomes, where do you get your app ID? Well, if you open up your project here, you'll see you have a project ID right here. And you can get to it if you go to configuration, you can get to it right here by project ID. So just in case you get lost, just click on setup and management configuration. scroll down, click on this guy and copy it, and then paste it like that. And there you go. There's your ID. Now that's cool, but how does this actually link up? So if we look at our Android manifest, you can see string app ID. I am telling it that it is a string value and it's going to be called app ID. App ID, it is going to be a string value. So that's how you can make that link between them, if that makes sense. So once we have this, in theory, if we've done everything correctly, it should just work. So let's open up our Godot project. I'm going to click and I'm going to build out to my Google Pixel 5. So I'll click that. I have not selected a main scene because it's a new project. So I'll select my current and it is going to attempt to build. So hopefully it works. If it doesn't, well, then we'll go ahead and go into debugging mode. All right. It looks like it successfully did it. So it's going to install on my Pixel. All right. Now you should be seeing my Pixel. So if I hit sign in, there we go. It's officially worked. So you can see it says PGPS wants to access your Google account. It gives you my information, which is going to be blurred. We'll scroll down and you can see that it gives us a bunch of check marks. That's because we actually did those check marks at the beginning when we did our authorization. We did that when we did our OAuth. We actually picked what we wanted access to. So you can see that it has access to our Google Play Games activity. It has access to our information. And it says that because you're signing into it, you will have your stuff get associated with it. And it's going to be sharing the information. So we'll hit continue. And there you go. You have logged in successfully. So now everything is set up. So at this point, you could basically drop off the tutorial and then just follow my documentation inside of my GitHub, or you could just hang out and we'll run through all the different options and talk about how they work and why they work and stuff like that. Now, before we go any further, let me show you what happens if you sign in. So if we come over here and I open up my console, I have ADB logcat. You can see right here, ADB logcat-s Godot. And you can see our sign in right here, success ID, and there's my ID right there. So that's awesome. So what happens if I want to get the user's information like their email or profile data? Well, if I mute this guy and I come in here, remember this is ID, email, profile data. If I play this and I press the button, you will see that I now have that information right here. So it says my display name, my email, my ID, just like that. So that's really useful if you need to get additional information from your user. So just keep that in mind that that's how this works. Now, for all intents and purposes, just for my own safety, I'm going to hit false. So that way you guys don't pull back my email during this. So that way I don't have to censor it constantly. So I'm just going to do that. And I think that will work. Now, something else that you will notice is that I did misspell success, so I fixed that. So if you run into an issue, that's because success is spelled with 2 C's, not 1 C. So once we have this, how do we sign out? Well, basically, we can do the same thing that we did for sign in. We can just paste this guy, and instead of saying sign in success and sign in failed, we can just go sign out success and sign out failed, right? You can just change these guys, and there we go. Now, to sign out, all we have to do is just duplicate our button like so. We'll move it down. We'll call this sign out. And then we could just click node, right click, disconnect, connect, and say instead of button 2, say on sign out. Button down. Then we can just say if GPGS, then GPGS dot sign out, like that. And then we also need to create our 2 signal functions. So I'm just going to copy these guys, paste them, and change this to out, and change this to out. There we go. And that's pretty much it. Now, I won't show how it works until later, but that's pretty much all you need to do to sign in and sign out. You can also check if you're signed in just by coming in here and saying func check if signed in, like this. And then we can just check if GPGS, then print quote player is signed in space plus GPGS dot is signed in. There you go. So now if we ever run this function, we can basically check if we are signed in or not. It'll just print yes or no. Now, this isn't super useful unless you're doing a check just to see, hey, if I'm going to submit an achievement, is the player signed in or are they not signed in? That might be useful. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, speaking of achievements, how do we actually do achievements? Now, achievements are its own whole thing, but it's actually relatively easy. So to do achievements, we need to have a code for each achievement. Okay. And we have to create them inside of Google Play Games. So how do you create them? Well, if you head over to your Play Game console, we scroll down, you'll see there's a tab for achievements. If we click on this, we can click Create Achievement. And we can set a name for that achievement. So in our case, we'll call it Tutorial Achievement. And our description is, this is our tutorial achievement, not out, but our. For an icon, you have to have an icon. In my case, I'm just going to pick my blah icon, which is just this S, which is basically the icon of the project itself, but that's fine. We could choose to make it incremental or not. That's up to you. And I will tell you guys how to work with incremental ones in a minute. We have revealed and hidden, which allows us to hide our achievement. And I can show you guys how to reveal achievements as well in a little bit. Points is how many points it is, and a list order is your actual list order. So where it is on the list of achievements. Is it the first achievement they see, or is it the last achievement that they see? Now all I have to do is click Save Draft, hit back, and you'll see we have an ID here. This ID is what matters. This is how we know what the achievement is. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to copy this ID. So copy. I'm going to click back to my achievements. I'm going to review and publish it, and I'm going to publish it. That's going to add that achievement to our game. So now if I go into Godot here, so now all we have to do is create our signals for our achievements. So if we come over here, we can just type gpgs.connect on underscore achievement underscore unlocked, comma, on achievement unlocked, like that. And then you of course have your failed, and then we also have a revealed, failed, incremented, and increment failed. We also have on step, on setting, on submitted failed, and that's pretty much all of your different achievement ones. So on achievement unlocked failed, on achievement unlocked failed, like that. And then we need to do the same thing here on achievement revealed. And the reason why I'm doing all this is just because it's going to be easier for me to do it beforehand. On achievement revealed failed, on incremented, on achievement incremented failed, on achievement steps underscore set, and on achievement steps set underscore failed. Now, most of these are signals that we're probably not going to need, but I want to make sure that we have them just in case. So I'm going to paste that guy. I'm going to paste that guy. I'm going to paste that guy. Just like that. And I know that this is a lot. Believe me, it's a pain to make, and you're probably skipping all of this anyway. So once we have all of this, all we have to do is create our functions. So that should be relatively quick as well. So I'm going to say func on achievement unlocked, like this, colon, and then we can go from there. So we'll say print unlock success. Now our on achievement unlocked takes in an achievement, which is going to be a string. So we'll say achievement, like that. And I'm going to hit plus achievement. So that way I have some debugging there. Now I'm going to copy this guy, and I'm basically just going to paste it a bunch because we're going to need to make a function for each one of our signals here. So we'll do on achievement unlocking failed, on achievement revealed, on achievement revealed failed, on achievement incremented, on achievement incremented failed, on achievement step set. And finally, we can duplicate this one more time. On achievement step set failed. Now, each one of these takes in an achievement. So thankfully, all of this is pretty much the same. We can just say unlock failed, achievement revealed, and achievement revealed failed. So we'll copy this, achievement incremented, and achievement incremented failed, achievement step state updated, and finally achievement set up stated failed. And that's basically what we need to do for all of our signals. Now the question you might be asking is, okay, so how do I do all of those things? So that's pretty easy. Right now, we're just going to do the unlock. The only reason why I did all of this was just because it was going to be easier for me to do all of that now than to bore you guys with it incrementally. So I'll come down here. I'm going to put it with the rest of my signals here. And I'm going to come in here to keep stuff a little bit organized. We'll put achievement section like that. And then we'll come down here. We'll put a couple things right here. Button section. And there we go. Now, when we want to do our buttons for this, we're just going to duplicate this guy. We'll pull this guy down, right click, disconnect, and we'll say unlock achievement like that. We'll go to node, button down, and we'll say unlock achievement button down. And all we have to do is say if GPGS colon and then GPGS dot unlock achievement. And then we have to put in our code. So every achievement has a code. And if you remember, I gave you guys what the code was for my specific achievement, which was right under achievements. And it was right here, the tutorial achievement. So we'll copy this guy again, because I did all that copying and pasting. And then we'll hit quote, paste. And there you go. And that's going to unlock that achievement. But before we test that, how do we actually show our achievements? Well, that's pretty simple. So if we go to here, and actually I'm going to put this over here so that way we have a little bit more space here. So unlock achievement, and then let's duplicate this guy, control duplicate, pull this guy down and do reveal achievement, or we'll say show achievements. So that's going to show us all of our achievements. So I'm going to come in here, node, I'm going to make sure I have my thing clicked, disconnect, connect, and I'm going to say show achievements button down like that. If GPGS colon, then GPGS dot show achievements like that. Easy enough. So now if we run this, you'll see that I have a sign in. So I can click that. I am now signed in. You can see I can sign out, which will sign me out. If I click it again, you'll see it's going to tell me, hey, do you want to sign in? I will say yes. So you can see I just signed back in. Now, if I click unlock achievement, you'll see that it says achievement unlocked, tutorial achievement. Awesome. If I click show achievements, it will actually show all of my achievements, just like that. So that's really cool, right? So now the question is, okay, how do I increment my achievements, right? What if I want to reveal an achievement or increment it? Well, that's pretty easy. If we go back to our Google Play Games, we go back to our achievements, we create an achievement, and we say, we'll name it Hidden Boy, description, blah, icon. I'm going to use the same icon just because I don't really want to go and get another one. I'm going to make it a hidden one, and I'm going to make it incremental. I'm going to make the steps needed to be 3. Points is going to be 5, list order of 2. So it's a hidden achievement. So we'll save as a draft. I'm going to come up here. I will copy Hidden Boy. I will go to achievements. I will review and publish it. Yes. So once we have that, all we have to do is come in here and actually create our achievement. So I'm going to control duplicate this button. I'm going to show hidden achievements like that. I'm going to come into my node here. I'm going to disconnect this method. I'm going to come in here, show hidden button down if GPGS colon GPGS dot REVEAL achievement like that. And then I will put in the code for the reveal achievement. Now you'll notice that this is a lowercase a. That's going to be fixed. I'm going to have to put an update in. So just know that that's a thing, but I will fix it in a later build. So this will become a capital A. I didn't know if this was a thing until 2 seconds ago. So I will fix that as soon as I can. Now, what happens if we want to increment an achievement? Well, the exact same thing happens. So I'm going to duplicate this button. I'm going to say increment achievement. I'm going to go to node. I'm going to right click, disconnect, connect, and I'm going to call this increment. And I'm going to do the same thing. So if GPGS : GPGS increment achievement, I'm going to pass in the achievement, comma, and then we can set a value. So in my case, I will set it to 2. Now, what happens if we want to set it? Well, it's the same thing, but you basically just say set achievements steps. So you can say GPGS dot set achievements steps, pass in your achievement value, comma, and pass in a value. Now, the difference between this, and I'm going to comment this guy out, but the difference between this and this is this increments it. So it does, let's say you have 1 point and you do 2, it is going to be equal to 3. However, if you have set achievements steps, what that's going to do is it's going to set that value to 3. So even if it's at 500 or whatever, it's going to set it to 3. So keep that in mind and don't mix the two because it can cause problems. Now, once we have this, if we take a look at our design here, you can see we have our stuff over top of it. So I'm going to say incremental achievements. I'm going to grab show hidden achievements and I'm going to hit play and play. And we can take a look at it on here on the screen. So if we take a look at our achievements, we hit show achievements, you can see we just have the 1 achievement. So if I hit show hidden achievements and then I click show, well, it should have shown it. So let me see if we did something wrong here. Let's take a look at the code real quick. And let me make sure that I have this set up correctly. Reveal achievement. Let's go into my play game service. Scroll down here. It actually is a capital A, reveal achievement. Okay, so it is fine. It's just my notes had it wrong. So reveal achievement with a capital A. So that's my fault. My apologies. So let me try rebuilding this and then let's reveal the achievement, verify that it works. So we'll hit show hidden achievement, show achievements, and you'll see that you can see hidden boy and you can see it's at 0%. If we click increment achievement and we click show achievements, you can see that we are at 66% because we gave them 2 points and they need 3. And then if we increment achievement one more time, it should unlock for them. There you go. It is now unlocked. And that's how you do incremental achievements. Easy enough. So that's pretty much everything that you need to know about doing achievements. So now the question is, okay, what else do we have? Well, we have leaderboards. So before we jump into leaderboards, let's talk about what leaderboards are and what leaderboards are not. So leaderboards are not something that you're going to use during your gameplay. So if you think of like a first-person shooter and you have your kill to death ratio and things like that, that's not what leaderboards, at least in the sense of Google Play Games, is all about. Leaderboards in terms of Google Play Games is supposed to be when somebody finishes a level, you basically can show how well they stack up to other people. They're not supposed to be a, here's a dynamic thing that's going to change every second. It's supposed to be a, once people complete a level, then their stuff gets submitted and it kind of just goes from there. So how do we do leaderboards? So first things first, we have a bunch of signals as per usual. So it's actually not super bad, but we have, if I grab this guy, so I'm going to copy this guy and paste it, GPGS on leaderboard underscore score underscore submitted, and we'll just duplicate that right there, and then we'll Control C, Control V, and on submitted underscore fail. And that's really all there is for our actual leaderboards. So I'm going to grab both of these guys. I'm going to create some functions for it. So func on leaderboard score submitted. like that. And you'll see that this is going to come back with an ID, which will be a string type. And then you'll just print that out real quick. Now, you guys, of course, can use it for whatever you need, but it is up to you. And I will pass in the ID like that. Now, if it fails, you can basically just copy this, paste it, grab this guy, and replace this like so. And then we'll write success and fails. We'll control X that. We'll come down here to all of these callbacks like this, and we'll place it like that. Now, how do we actually submit a score? How do we do things with our leaderboard? So leaderboards are actually really simple. So you have these two signals, the score submitted and the score submitted failed. You have the ability to show your leaderboard, and you have your ability to submit to your leaderboard, and you have the ability to show all of your leaderboards. So that's basically what you have available to you. So to submit to a leaderboard, you actually have to create that leaderboard, right? So if we head over to our Google Play console here, we click on Achevements and we come to Leaderboards, we can create a leaderboard. We'll call this Test Leaderboard. Now you can see we have a format, a number, duration, or currency. We'll do a number because that's going to be easy. Number of decimals, we can choose however many decimals we want, and you can see the format there. Now, of course, you can add in a unit as well. So we can say like coins or something like that. And what it will do is basically just give you a custom unit that these guys will have. Now, in my case, I don't need that, but it is something to keep in mind. Now you do need to actually have an icon. It's got to be 512 by 512. So I'm just going to use my fancy drawing here. Sort order, smallest or largest first. So whichever one is better. So for instance, if you want your character to have a higher time or a lower time, being whoever wins. So if it's a high score or a lowest time, largest first or smallest first. Tamper protection is useful. I'll just keep that on. Limits, we can actually set a lowest and highest. This is useful because if your game only allows 1,000 points, and let's say that there's 1,000 monsters, you can kill all 1,000 monsters, and that means that you get 1,000 points. Somebody can't submit 1,001, right? It'll stop that from happening. So now let's just save this as a draft. You'll come up here, and you'll see that you have an ID. So we'll copy that ID. We'll go back to leaderboards, and we will go ahead and publish this leaderboard, and we'll publish like that. Now, if we come back here, if we want to actually do a leaderboard stuff, let's duplicate this guy. Let's drag it over here, and let's say show leaderboards. Like that. And then let's duplicate this guy, pull it down. We're going to go ahead and show all leaderboards like that. And then we're going to duplicate this one more time, and we will submit a score. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, right click, disconnect, connect, and I will change this to show leaderboard on button down. I'll click on this guy, right click, disconnect, connect, do the same thing here. So we will say show all leaderboards, and I'm going to have to change this to underscores like that. And then I will take this guy and disconnect and submit score. All right. So to show a leaderboard, first we got to check if GPGS, then GPGS.show leaderboard, and then we can pass in our ID. Now, if we want to show all leaderboards, we can just type if GPGS dot show all leaderboards like that. And if we want to submit a score, it's actually really simple. We can just hit if GPGS again, GPGS dot submit leaderboard score. We can pass in our ID and then the score value that we want to submit like that. So we're going to hit Control S. I'm going to run this on my phone. So you can see if I hit show leaderboard, nothing seems to happen. If I hit show all leaderboards, you can see that our test leaderboard shows up. So my guess is there's something I may have done wrong. So let me see if I come in here, show all leaderboards. If I come in here, show all leaderboards, show leaderboard button down. I misspelled board, B-O-A-R-D. There we go. That's my fault. And to show the difference between show all and show leaderboard, let me click on here. Let me create another one and call it test 2. We will upload the same icon just so that way we have it, and we will save that as a draft. Then we'll go back, we'll hit review and publish, we'll publish it and publish it. And now if we rerun this, that's one unfortunate part about not having any auto completion is sometimes things get broken and you don't know why, and it's because you misspelled something or something like that. So show leaderboard, you can see it's showing test leaderboard. If we do show all leaderboards, you can see it says test leaderboard as well, which leads me to believe that this must just show the first one, because I'm not actually seeing all of the leaderboards. So there must be something funky that I'm missing. But that's okay. And if we hit submit score, and then we click show leaderboards, so it doesn't seem like submit score is working. But if we take a look, we're missing a capital B, leaderboard, L-E-A-D-E-R, capital B, O-A-R-D. So we'll retry that one more time. Let's see if it works. So we'll hit submit, and then we'll hit show leaderboard. And it doesn't look like it worked still. So let me take a look at the code real quick. Okay, so I figured it out. So what's going on is I had a leaderboard hidden so that I wouldn't be able to actually see my own leaderboard scores. So if I take a look at my leaderboard, it should show up now just like that. So there was nothing wrong with the code itself other than that small spelling mistake where I had the lowercase b. It just turned out that I had settings that was set up here so that I had some privacy settings set. So that's the reason why. Now, once we have that, we're basically good to go. We're pretty much done. We have our sign-in, we have achievements, we have leaderboards. So what other features does this thing have? Well, it has the ability to save your game. Now, saving games can be painful, but with this, it's not so bad. So let's first do our actual connection here. So first things first, GPGS, connect, and let's connect our save game stuff. So it's relatively simple. We have underscore on underscore game underscore saved underscore success. And I'm going to, of course, make my standard stuff. So we'll paste that in. We'll duplicate that and it will say on saved game failed. We will duplicate it 3 more times. And we'll say on game load success, on game load failed, and finally on create underscore new underscore snapshot. So I'm going to grab this guy, paste, this guy, paste, this guy, paste, and this guy, paste. Now we're going to need to make our functions for this. So that should be relatively simple. So first things first, func on game save success. It doesn't pass anything in. We could just say print save game. Usually you would tell the user that something successfully saved. So you would have like a pop-up or something that says game has been saved successfully. Usually that's what you would use this for. We can paste, paste, and paste. I believe we said we had 5. So on saved game failed, on load game success, on load game failed, and then 1 more for our snapshot. On create new snapshot. So on load game failed, we can say failed to save game. For our on game load success, it's going to pass in some data. So we can just print load, and I will print out that data. Now remember that this data is going to be JSON data, so you're going to want to convert it into objects so that way you can use it. It's up to you on how you want to handle that, but I'm just letting you guys know that this will be JSON data. on game load failed, we can just say load game failed. And then finally on create new snapshot, it's going to pass back a name, which is going to be a string. And we can basically just say create a snapshot. And we can add in that name like that. Now I'm going to copy these guys. I'm going to put them down here with the rest of my functions right here. So we'll paste them in. There we go. And I believe we originally had sections like this. So we'll do that. And then we will do the same thing here for our saved games. Now, to do saved games, it's actually kind of important, okay? Save games basically work relatively simple, but we have to change how we initialize the plugin. If you remember, we discussed how to initialize the plugin to get saved games earlier, but all you got to do is change this to init with saved games. True, game name, false, false. In my case, I did false, false, because I don't really need to get my email and profile data. But if you need the profile data, you can just say true, and it'll pull back that profile data. Now, what if you want to create a button to actually save and load the game? Well, that's pretty simple. So we'll duplicate this button. We'll drag this guy here. We'll duplicate this. We have the ability to save, the ability to load, and the ability to show saved games. So we'll come into our first button. We will say save game. We'll click on this one, load game. And then we will have one for show all saved games. So I'm going to grab this guy, node, disconnect our stuff like we've been doing, connect it, and change this to save game. Like that. We're going to click on our other button, right click, disconnect, connect, and we will go ahead and grab this and do load game underscore button down. And then the last one, right click, disconnect, connect, and we will have show all, show saved games. So when we want to save our game, it's actually relatively simple. So we can just say if GPGS, then all we have to do is create a dictionary of data. So if you have objects and things like that, you can basically just create your dictionary data all you want. In my case, I'm going to build a quick dictionary. So I'll just say var saved data is equal to open and close parentheses, quote, name, colon, quote, test, comma, age, and we'll say colon 10. We'll say that this game's for kids, right? And then all we have to do is say GPGS dot save snapshot. We have to name our snapshot, so we can name it whatever we want it to be. So we can just say test, comma, JSON.new dot stringify and our saved data. And then if we want to give a description, we can put in a test description like that, or we can just leave it empty. And that's pretty much all you have to do to save. Now, to load a game, it's actually relatively easy. So we could just say if GPGS colon GPGS dot load snapshot, and we can pass in our name test. Now this is the index of that game. So just remember that. And then if you click show saved games, to show your saved games, all you have to do is come in here and say if GPGS, as always, colon GPGS dot show saved games. Pass in your name, so test, comma, true, comma, true, comma, 5. So what do these mean? So the first one's your name. The second one is allowing them to add saved games. The other one is showing them how to delete them. And then 5 is the maximum number of allowed saved games. So you can have, well, technically it's not the maximum number of allowed saved games, it's how many you're going to show them at a time. So technically you could have 20 or 30 or 40 and just show them 5, and that would work. So if you don't want them to be able to manage their saved games themselves, you can hit these guys as false, and that will stop that from happening. Now, once we have that, we should be good to go by opening up our Pixel and running that over there. And let's see how it goes. All right, first things first, show all saved games. If we click on that, you'll see that there are no saved games. If we go to save game and then we click show all saved games, you can see that we have a saved game. And the nice thing is if you hit select, it's going to actually bring that into your game. If you come over here and click load save game, nothing seems to happen. So why is that? Well, that's because you have to pull it back with logcat because we don't know what it looks like. So you just need to make sure that you keep that in mind. So you'll see that if I do my logcat, you'll see that I have loaded game, age 10, name, test. So that's our saved information. So now we can basically use that for our game. So if you have small stuff that you want to save up to the cloud, Google handles all of that for you. So instead of using something like Firebase or anything like that, this actually can handle some basic saving and loading for your game. You know, for a vast majority of people's games, this actually works really well. So if you think about a game where, like, for instance, if you were to play putt-putt golf, you don't need to save everything that the player's done, right? You only need to save, hey, here's what level they're on, possibly what their high score was on their other levels. And this offers that. You know, you only really need to step up to like Firebase if you're doing something much larger than just a basic small save. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, that's pretty much everything that you need to know about how to use Google Play Game Services with Godot 4. Now, as I said in the intro, this should work with 3.5 as well. So if you're using it, then this should work as well. The only difference really is just your signals, and that's pretty much it. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Hey, you know, if you dislike this video, go ahead and hit that dislike button because I'm here to make content for you guys. This video was a viewer suggested video, so if you have any suggestions, please throw them in the comments below or jump on my GitLab. That is where I keep track of every suggestion, and your guys' votes matter. If there is a suggestion that has higher votes or has more comments or more feedback, I tend to focus on that one more. So please let me know if there's anything that I can cover that will help you guys out. And hey, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below or jump on my Discord. Link is in the description, and I'll be more than happy to help you guys out with any issues you might be having. But that is all I have for you guys today. So thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks.